Okay, I made a video a couple of days ago, actually 3 videos, about how skinny is in under fascism and how thinness as a societal expectation is used to control us, and it's also used to promote white supremacy. In those videos, I quoted feminist thinker Naomi Wolf from her book, The Beauty Myth, where she says, a culture fixated on female thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience. Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. A quietly mad population is a tractable one. I want to say thank you to the folks in the comments of those videos who alerted me to the fact that Naomi Wolf is no longer a feminist. She fell down the anti-vax to alt-right pipeline in the last couple of years, and I did not know that. So after folks alerted me to that fact, I spent quite a bit of time reading up about her, which admittedly was heartbreaking. And I think she is a cautionary tale, a good reminder that everybody is susceptible. You may think that you're not, but everybody is susceptible to the propaganda, to the radicalization that can happen when you start exposing yourself to red pill alt-right content. So I want to share a little bit more about what happened to her. I know that there were other people in my comments, especially on YouTube, who were like, what do you mean Naomi Wolf is no longer a feminist? What do you mean that she's a Trumper? There were a number of really good pieces on it, but the New Republic had one that I want to quote from a little bit here. Piece is by Liza Featherstone, and it's entitled The Madness of Naomi Wolf. Y'all, this piece came out in 2021. I do not know how I missed that she had gone down this alt-right pipeline. I think I was just fully immersed in grieving the loss of my mother and taking care of my dad who had dementia. And I didn't actually read the news all that much in this period of time. And so I missed this. But y'all, this is around the same time that I lost a handful of friends to the alt-right pipeline, the same kind of like crunchy mom, the same kind of like queer feminist mom to alt-right pipeline. Snatched a couple of my friends. And so reading this story in the New Republic was particularly painful. The Madness of Naomi Wolf, the beauty myth author, has gone from being a feminist icon to an anti-vaxxer banned by Twitter. Featherstone begins, when I graduated from college in 1991, Naomi Wolf was a feminist icon and the only person of or close to my generation who merited the designation. The weighty feminist classics that had shaken the world from mid-century through the 70s, The Second Sex, The Feminine Mystique, The Female Eunuch, Against Our Will, had been read by millions, but the 1980s were more pessimistic and less ambitious. Under Ronald Reagan, George Bush, and Phyllis Schlafly, feminism was in retreat. The women's movement was still intellectually fruitful. Scholars and activists debated sexuality, class, and race in anthologies published by university presses, but it had lost its visceral urgency. Feminist ideas no longer seemed to inspire people to picket their workplaces or to leave their husbands. The days of the feminist bestseller were past, it appeared. With them also the power of a transformative movement. Naomi Wolf's breakout hit, The Beauty Myth, published in 1990, changed all of that. Here was a feminist disquisition of old-school proportions, a big fat analysis of how profit and patriarchy conspire to make women feel bad about themselves, joined with a call to action. Its author was pretty and presentable, tourable, as the publishing industry used to say before #MeToo. She could not be accused of sour grapes or resentment. A stereotypically ugly or even average-looking feminist would not have been able to attack the beauty industry with the same equal credibility as Wolf. Beauty myth's power derives in part from prose that signifies both simplicity and profundity. It's true, like the title for every chapter is just one word, like hunger or sex or work. There are images to describe how each beauty myth functions. She uses really compelling metaphors to get her argument across. One of the things I really appreciated in the beauty myth is the way that Wolf talks about thinness as a social construct used to make us shrink ourselves and be smaller and take up less space. As a 6-foot-tall woman who has never been small, I have always felt that I take up an unacceptable amount of space. The fact that I am bigger than a lot of men is something that makes me socially unacceptable and has contributed toward me feeling pressure to make myself smaller. So I really connected very much with that in her work. But then we have this shift, like something happened to Naomi Wolf between when she wrote The Beauty Myth and June of 2021, when she got kicked off of Twitter for posting anti-vax propaganda. I didn't know that Naomi Wolf had actually published a book in 2019 called Outrages, Sex Censorship, and the Criminalization of Love. apparently the central premise of that book was based on something that was fundamentally wrong, and the publisher actually had to unpublish the book. So clearly something was going on in that time period for her. But then in 2021, Wolf was posting things on Twitter like she had overheard an Apple employee describing vaccine technology that would enable time travel. She posted that she believed that when vaccinated people used the restroom, that their waste should be separated into a separate sewage system so that it wouldn't contaminate the drinking water. Apparently, after being banned from Twitter, she also made comments on a British news show that compared COVID-19 vaccinations with mass murder. In 2023, Naomi Wolf was appearing on alt-right media like Steve Bannon's podcast, The War Room, where she was spouting debunked anti-vax propaganda about the COVID-19 vaccination. In 2024, in an interview again with Steve Bannon, Naomi Wolf formally endorsed Donald Trump for president. She claimed he would be, quote, more inclusive, and said that the Republican Party had become, quote, the unity party. Y'all, she was an advisor for Bill Clinton's presidential campaign and also an advisor to Al Gore when he was vice president. Right, as I was combing through articles about Naomi Wolf, it appears that as early as 2014, she was starting to spread some concerning conspiracy theory talking points and positions, right? And so what we've seen is this terrible slide from 1990 feminist icon with a really important piece about the way that capitalism and the patriarchy worked together to oppress women to the crunchy anti-vax to alt-right pipeline, resulting in her ultimately becoming a big Trump supporter, full-blown conspiracy theorist Trump supporter. This reminds me very much to Jewel Kilcher going down the alt-right Maha pipeline. I think she married some country singer and lived in Tennessee, and folks said that's when she started going down the alt-right pipeline. But I think a lot of it also is transphobia. A lot of women who otherwise maybe seemed crunchy fell for RFK Jr.'s anti-vax propaganda. And also, you'll hear it as a dog whistle. I know Jewel has said it, and other women who have fallen down this particular Maha pipeline due to transphobia will say it, that they're worried about children's mental health. That's absolutely a dog whistle, that they are worried that we are transing kids. The reason that trans children struggle with their mental health is because they face rejection from their families and society. It's not because they're trans, it's because of the way that society treats them for being trans. I really wanted to take the time to clarify there, and not just because I quoted Naomi Wolf and I didn't want people to think that I support the way that she is now, but also because this is so painfully reminiscent of what has happened to people in my life. And I'm sure for a lot of y'all, people in your lives as well, we have seen so many people who got radicalized by QAnon, radicalized by the crunchy to alt-right pipeline. I have made several videos on that pipeline. It has done a tremendously effective job of radicalizing women, mothers in particular, who formerly were Barack Obama supporters. They would consider themselves progressive, feminist, and has sucked them into this subculture of Maha and then ultimately MAGA, and they are now full-blown Trumper conspiracy theorists. I know that that's painful for a lot of us, and I know that a lot of us can struggle to understand how did this happen to people that we care for and love. The thing that I learned from QAnon and losing a couple of very close friends to that pipeline in particular is that nobody is immune. You can think that you are immune to propaganda. You can think that you are immune to conspiracy theories, but the psychology of it is extremely effective. If you are willing to expose yourself to that kind of content, it can work on you. My third kid is 17 now, but he said back when he was 12, 13, he was watching BreadTube on YouTube. He said that he was being fed videos that in 1 or 2 clicks, his algorithm would completely change. He was suddenly being shown tons of alt-right propaganda, lots of content that very quickly could radicalize him. And we had a lot of conversations about how important it is to protect yourself from that. And I was so grateful that he was aware that that's what the algorithm was trying to do to him. It was no, I don't want to go down this pathway. But it's not just children. It's not just the youth who are susceptible to this. It's anybody, especially when we're lonely and isolated, because these conspiracy theory groups, they give us a sense of community. They give us a sense of special knowledge and connection to other people that fills a void for a lot of folks. So I guess it's a cautionary tale and also a clarification, as sad as it may be.